This is Unemployed Jeff. Conversations about identity, uncertainty, and what's left when work has kind of fallen away. As you can assume, I'm Jeff. And my goal is you walk away at least feeling like you're not alone and knowing that you have value. Who is this for? This is for people who are unemployed, underemployed, burned out, or quietly questioning their career identity. Heavy stuff. But it's also, I just want people to know you're not alone. It's for people who are tired of being told to reframe everything as an opportunity. It's for people who are dealing with the invisible work of holding themselves together while the outside world keeps asking for updates. Sometimes it'll just be talking. Sometimes I'll have conversations with other people who've been through this, not because they figured it out, but because they lived through the in-between, or people who are currently living in the in-between. If you're listening to this and thinking, oh, someone finally said it out loud, then this is for you. And I don't know where the podcast is going to go yet. And honestly, that to me feels pretty appropriate. What I do know is that I'm going to show up honestly. I'm not going to rush the story. And I'm not going to pretend this part of life doesn't matter. If you're here, thank you. And if you're in the middle of your own reset, you're not behind, you're not broken, and you're not doing this wrong. I'm glad you're here. Provider identity. It's like when you can't play this role that you were trained for, at least for me. I certainly wasn't trained for it. It was definitely OJT, right? The decision was made when my wife and I decided to start having a family that I would continue on and be the primary provider, at least financially. There's more to it. I'll get into that. But that was the decision we decided to make. And it was based on, at the time, what I was doing. The income was greater than what my wife was earning. And then the path seemed to be, or have a potential path of promotions and raises and all that good corporate stuff. So that was decided, right? And you kind of grow up, learning about provider. But you don't ever really formally choose it. You kind of, we decided, all right, this is how we're going to do it. But when we decided that, I didn't get a manual for it. And I learned really quick, you don't get to opt out. It's just there. It's a role that never turns off. And being a provider isn't just about the money. It's about responsibility. It's about being the one who absorbs uncertainty so other people don't have to. The one who figures things out quietly, the one who keeps things moving, the one who doesn't panic out loud. For a long time, that role fits. Until suddenly, it doesn't. When income disappears, but responsibility doesn't. Here's the thing no one prepares you for. When income disappears, responsibility doesn't. Bills still come. Decisions still need to be made. People still look to you, even if they don't say it explicitly. And that creates a strange pressure. You're still expected to be the provider, just without the usual tools. At some point you realize you're still carrying the weight, you just don't have the uniform anymore. And it's this quiet fear of letting people down. There's a fear that shows up here that's hard to say out loud. It's the fear of letting people down. And it's not because anyone is accusing you, it's not because anyone is disappointed, but because you've internalized the idea that stability is something you're supposed to deliver. And when circumstances change, that expectation doesn't automatically adjust, it just gets heavier. And then there's pride versus reality. This is where pride and reality start negotiating with each other. Pride says, I should be able to handle this. And reality says, this is bigger than effort. And living in that tension is exhausting. You don't want to dramatize it. You don't want sympathy. You just want to keep the ship steady. You find yourself saying things like, we're okay, which is true, but also doing a lot of work. And here's the shift that matters. Providing isn't just financial. Sometimes it's making hard decisions, adjusting plans without panic, choosing long-term stability over short-term comfort, being emotionally present when things are uncertain. Those things count, even when they're invisible. What providing actually means to me, and I want to pause here and say something clearly. The goal was always providing for my family, and I take pride in that. Not in a loud way or status way, in a responsibility way. Because providing for me was never just about the money, it was about keeping the tribe going. Making sure the people I love had stability, making sure stress didn't become their default setting, making sure they could focus on growing instead of surviving. Some of that is financial, absolutely. I wanted my family to experience things I didn't, travel, opportunities, exposure to different worlds and possibilities. But more than that, I wanted them not to struggle the way I did. And my upbringing wasn't a constant struggle, but I just wanted them to have better. I want them to have better. I want them to be able to dream, to try things, to fail safely, to take chances without fear being the primary constraint. That was the goal. And that goal doesn't disappear just because circumstances change. At some point, you realize providing isn't about having all the answers. It's about absorbing uncertainty so other people don't have to carry it. When things get shaky, the pressure doesn't lessen. It actually sharpens. Because the mission is still there, even when the path gets narrower. Naming what's actually happening. I mean, if you're struggling with this role right now, it doesn't mean you've failed as a provider. It means the definition you were given was too narrow, way too narrow. You're still carrying responsibility. You're still showing up. You're still protecting what matters. The form has changed. The role hasn't disappeared. So if you're in a season where you feel like you're falling short of a role you were trained to play, that doesn't mean you're letting anyone down. It means the world changed faster than the role was designed for. And adapting to that quietly, responsibly, without collapsing, is still provision. We'll keep naming this one layer at a time. If you're in this space, you don't need to fix it right now. You just need to know you're not alone in it. We'll talk again soon.